Ty, you threw up a lot last week.
Dude, oh my goodness. All right, so listeners, last episode was a two-parter. It was the Let's Get Weird Part 1 and Part 2. And I made some rookie mistakes, man.
What the hell were you thinking, man?
It wasn't what I was thinking. I was packed. I was busy. Like, I was sitting there. Someone was like, hey, can you do this for me? I was like, I can fit it in. All right, cool. So I did not eat enough, and I didn't eat right before we recorded.
As soon as I said that, I'm like, dude, I have done this a million times, and I'm going to judge Ty one time for his vomiting.
Oh my goodness, it was not good. So,
but it was how was the pizza?
So the pizza was good going in. Going back out was it was a vegan pizza, if I'm not mistaken.
So is this? Yeah, it was.
Okay,
but was that the reason you threw it up?
No.
Okay, good.
I did not throw it because it was vegan. I threw up because I did not eat enough. So basically, and I've experienced this before because I won't learn from my mistakes, which we will delve into that soon. I did not eat, so I had all that alcohol in my stomach, and I tried to introduce food, and it couldn't absorb it.
Sometimes introductions are hard, man. It's much like this podcast, so we are learning together.
Yes.
On this podcast, where we do what, Ty?
We watch the cartoons that we grew up on and drink because now we're old enough to.
We are old enough to do it now. This week, we're going to probably do the same thing. We're going to drink whiskey. We're going to talk about Nicktoons, and we're going to have a good time.
And listeners, you answered, we heard, and responded. We now have a special guest.
Oh, my goodness.
A psychologist to react to these shows.
Yeah. You got to do a thing real quick, though, don't you? You should probably do the thing.
I have a disclaimer.
Do the thing.
The purposes of this podcast
No. I want to hear you say it.
Motherfucker.
You're goddamn right about that. My kid is now fast asleep. I can pour myself a glass. But too many shows on Netflix are trash. It makes me want to pass. I can't figure out what to watch. What am I supposed to do? Let's get drunk and rewatch cartoons when we were little dudes. Whiskeylodeon.
The purposes of this podcast is for educational and marketing purposes only. They are our opinions and not those of a representative employer or institution. We ask that you consult with your provider for any issues that you may be experiencing. There are no financial conflicts of interest.
Yo, these nipples could cut double diamonds right now with that intro. All right, so this week, we have a very, very, very special guest.
Yes, we do.
Dr. Leia Charnin. She is a local Charlotte psychologist, and she specializes in anxiety, trauma, depression, and she sees a lot of teens. She sees teens. She sees, hey, in some of the areas in North Carolina, that's acceptable. She sees teens, families, adults, but more importantly, she is a dear friend of mine, and she's sitting right next to me. Dr. Leia Charnin. Can I just call you Leia from the remainder of this? But Leia, it's so good seeing you here today. How you doing?
I am already stifling laughs over here, so I know it's going to be a great day with y'all. It's so good to be here.
Are those tears already? You can't be crying this early.
Well, I want to go ahead and say, because you labeled her as your friend and not our friend, well, I'll now have to refer to you as Dr. Leia Charnin.
Oh, shit. Well, yeah, so that's fair. That's fair. I didn't do the best job. Our dear friend, Leia and I go back, man. You and I go back. We know there's always going backs with friendships, but Leia actually recently took me in, straight up, rescued me. You know about this, Ty?
I do.
Yeah.
I was.
We were roomies for what, 6 months?
About 6 months. Yeah. So I'm sensing some weird triangulation of friendship happening, but I love you both equally.
Yeah.
And also, Sean and I did manage to survive our friendship and live together for 6 months.
Yeah.
With our 2 dogs, I decided to get a puppy in this.
Yeah.
3 weeks after you moved in.
No, it was 3 seconds. I think
it wasn't kind to Ziggy.
But
husky.
To be fair, and so I think if you've listened to a couple episodes, you know Ziggy. You know Kenneth. Ty's
Yep,
dog.
my dog, my Corky Jack
And
Russell mix.
I think Ty, Kenneth, and Ziggy kind of coexist, right?
They get along.
Leia, do you want to talk about Rue? He's a very sweet golden doodle. Is he golden doodle, right? Yeah. Talk about Ziggy and his relationship when we lived together.
Oh, heavens. So Rue is a very energetic, now 11 months old, right? But he moved in when he was about 6 months.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
right?
He's a baby.
He's a baby. So he's learning the world and he's learning boundaries. And Ziggy was there to teach him about boundaries.
But do you think Ziggy was actually a good teacher? I think Ziggy was just kind of like the old, kind of like Lou Pickles a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I also think we need to learn about like natural consequences when you fuck with another dog that just doesn't want to have you nearby.
Yeah.
It's going to be a natural consequence of
It
a
is.
growl or like a flaming breath of fire coming from one's snout. Or,
As it will be. Yeah.
right?
And
You know, I'm going to go ahead and concede, because Leia and I have been friends for a couple of years now, but I haven't met Rue yet, so I can see why you would label her as your friend instead of ours, because I haven't reached that level, apparently.
Well, we've worked together. We've lived together. I mean, we've had our dogs have cohabitated together. And I think that just, you haven't lived together. Your dogs haven't met.
Yeah, if I was
So,
married but living with Leia, that would be raising some concerns.
Yeah, we'd have some questions. But we're so happy you're here today.
We're
Thank you
so
for
glad
thank
you're
you for
here.
doing this. We're going to talk about 2 episodes today. And I
Both
think before we get to,
featuring- yeah,
both
they're both
featuring some ideas of psychology. Ty, before we get to that, do you want to talk about what we are going to be pairing with this episode?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Fuck yeah, man.
So this is actually going to be our second cocktail. This is the Blueberry Kentucky Mule. So this has the makings of a Moscow Mule, but instead of vodka, we are using bourbon. And so we basically have bourbon, lime juice, blueberries, and ginger beer.
And the ginger beer is something pretty special, isn't it?
Oh,
man?
yeah. So this one is actually, it's just Q ginger beer. And so this ginger beer is sweetened with agave, but it also has chili pepper, coriander, cardamom, lime, and orange.
And we're drinking a rye. Hold on. So Ty has been teaching me every week about whiskey because I don't know anything about it, but I know this now. Rye is more spicy. So now that we have right, you have a fucking look on your face.
Well, because we're drinking.
Is the sour mash not a rye?
No.
So this is great. I have learned nothing. Is this on me or is this on you, Ty, as the teacher or the student? Who do we blame in the society? We blame
the teacher.
No, we don't blame the teacher. I think you got that wrong.
Well, I think it's way more shaming to blame the student. So let's go with that.
Oh,
yeah. Oh shit!
You were not listening.
This is a conundrum because we shouldn't shame either, right?
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? Let me just admit my fuck up. I know that rye is spicier, but here I am thinking we're drinking rye. We are not drinking rye. We're drinking Henry McKenna.
Yeah, Henry McKenna.
Yeah. Sour mash.
Yes.
I'm a dum-dum, Ty.
What you're tasting is the ginger. The ginger is what's the spiciness, as well as the chili pepper, the cardamom. You're tasting spice, and it's good that you're catching that, but it's coming from something else other than the whiskey.
Yeah, that's great. You're a good teacher.
Obviously.
Oh, damn. I wish one day you will. I wish you could see Leia, that face, though. Do you see his reaction sometimes? Do you see what I have to work with?
Ty has some very strong nonverbal behaviors, and I am observing in this moment. I'm writing down on my clipboard.
Yes. She does have a clipboard somewhere around here. Well, you guys, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
We do have a new segment we're doing called the Teddy Report.
Yeah. So, Ty, each week, we're going to just check in about your book, which is called
Your Baby's Not Evil, Just Awful.
And this week, what the fuck is your baby up to? The Teddy Report for babies.
So I'm going to go ahead and preface. We're also going to bring up, we had some notes from some listeners. Thank you for that. But we had a listener tell me that I sounded like I was being an asshole talking about my child. That I needed to convey that, no, I really do love my child.
Yes, and.
I can love him and still talk shit about him. But anyways, so what we're struggling with right now is we took him out of his crib into a bed. And it's kind of been great because, one, he wants to snuggle before he goes to bed, which, I love. I love my child. So, disgruntled listener, if you're listening, I will be home by 6. I love you.
Leia, did you get a chance to listen to the first podcast by any chance?
I did.
What is your feedback for Ty? What does Ty need to hear right now about his baby?
Well, first, I actually really want to say I respect that Ty is so honest about the array of emotions that come up for being a parent.
Damn straight.
Oh, I'm not judging. Listen, guys, I'm here in the middle. I am surrounded by two of my favorite people. One happens to be a very, very wonderful professional psychologist, and the other is a wonderful dad. I have a microphone. I am a wonderful holder of a microphone. That's all I got going for me. So if I'm throwing shade, it's just because I want more sunshine, all right?
Okay.
Well, I also think Sean is sunshine.
Sean is very much sunshine.
Beautiful spirits around here. And again, I think just to have the normalization of it's hard to be a parent and you're not going to always love your child. And that doesn't mean you don't love your child. It's just in the moment you're frustrating the heck out of me. Or it's hard to sometimes tap into that deep kindness and compassion when we're just tired. And you're very real about that, Ty. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I think we can see that through relationships in general, right? It doesn't have to be just a child thing. Yeah. So
we transitioned from his crib to a bed. And he's drunk on that power. Because in the crib, what would happen is he would wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning and he'd be like, Dad, Mom! And we could ignore him for a couple minutes and he would go back to bed. And he would sleep till 8. And it was amazing. But now he's got power.
Oh, shit,
and he's drunk on that power. He gets up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. It doesn't matter if it's a fucking weekend. And he wants to come in. And we even installed this alarm light. So it starts up red. It's a little puppy with a red ball. And we told him you have to wait until it turns green, which we set for 7 o'clock just to be reasonable. And he won't fucking listen. He goes, well, I want to snuggle. I'm like, okay, we like your snuggles. But I have to wake up and hold my phone when he watches something. And it's blaring in my ear, Paw Patrol or something else. And
it's a great show.
I mean, sure. But it's dude, just let me sleep.
So, but the good news is, Ty, you always get to catch up on your sleep, and you know exactly when. It's right after this podcast. Because last week after you threw up, you stayed for 2 days straight on that couch. I did poke you with a stick a couple times to make sure he was breathing.
That's not true. My wife called me at 2 a.m. and was like, where the fuck are you? And I was
is that what happened? I was drunk too.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I didn't even remember passing out. I was just sitting on Sean's couch. I think I cuddled Ziggy for a little bit. And then I wake up and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I have my phone's ringing. So I actually drove back home because I wasn't drunk anymore, but I definitely had that hangover. And as I'm driving home, I had to pull over to throw it the second time. And I enjoyed your vegan pizza, Sean. It was not pleasant coming back up.
No, it never is. But, it's okay.
It's okay.
This is going to be my week to throw up, probably.
It's a lesson learned.
It's going to happen.
It's a lesson learned. Eat before you start.
Yes, which we did this week, everybody.
Yes.
And thank you for being here. We do appreciate you listening in. You can follow us on Instagram. You can email us at
whiskeylodeon.podcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. You can even follow us individually if you like. I am Ty Longworth. This is Sean Beck. Dr. Leia Charnin, where can people find you?
Well, you are welcome to look me up on Instagram at warmly.dr. Leia, Leia. I try to provide some educational content about just skills and strategies of life of supporting our mood, right, and relationships. As I'm listening to the two of you and what sounds like a very painful last week for you, Ty, I do want to say I've chosen to stay to the mocktail today since I am here in a semi-professional capacity, and also
Indeed.
I just don't want to hurt. So I want to normalize too that sometimes if you want to join friends who are having a great conversation and kick back, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with alcohol sometimes, and at the same time whiskey is wonderful. So
that was Ty. She said that in 10 seconds, way better than we could in 4 total episodes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
But also,
we'll just we'll just get Leia to do sound bites for us. Just
yes, we're gonna have a recurring
hey, we
segment.
need you to say a thing. It's going to be very important, and do it in 10 seconds, and you're gonna nail it.
You know
just
what?
like you just did.
That's not the first time I've heard that. My clients will sometimes tell me, they're like, you just summed, right? And in a concise way, everything I just said in 20 minutes in a sentence.
I tried to explain a card game to my friends last week, and I did it in like 30 seconds, and then everyone just has blank stares on their face, and they're like, literally someone goes, that was awful. And they look at the next person and they need explanation. I'm like, wow, I'm not the communicator here. So we're gonna bring Leia back for sound bites one of these days, and just
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
New skill to add to my resume. So.
Yeah. We want to talk about a couple episodes. So before we do that, you specialize in a few different things, and I know that a couple of them are anxiety and depression. Do you want to kind of, I know that our listeners kind of know what those are, but can you, as you do so wonderfully, explain the difference between like anxiety and depression?
You have 3 sentences.
You have 3 words.
Oh, I'm just going home now. That's going to be so hard to do in 3 sentences. After I just spoke about my art of being concise.
Just kidding.
Goodness. So my background, right? And let's look at this. We can look at it from many different angles, like the emotional experience of what anxiety and depression looks like, the cognitive or thought-based process, as well as what's going on with us neurochemically, right? And so we have these very physiological responses as well. And so I want to talk about it in that intersection where depression tends to be very related to autonomic nervous system, kind of depressed system, motivation's really hard, feeling kind of hopeless and disconnected from life. Individuals might feel very helpless also, and it becomes this very suppressed energy system that's happening for us, and it makes just daily task, connection with enjoyment, or we might call it anhedonia, loss of enjoyment in life.
Who is going to call it that?
Well, clinicians, I suppose.
Okay.
Y'all, okay, I'm nerdy. Thank you for calling me out.
We want that though. Like, keep being nerdy. This is wonderful. I'm leaning back in my chair right now, just thank you for this free session. That's so ethical of you.
Remember the disclaimer now.
Yes. Always remember the disclaimers.
I love that I'm also sitting here like flailing my hands around like I'm giving like a formal presentation.
Yo, that's part of it though. Like we did that in the first episode. Like I think Ty and I looked like we were trying to like summon a beast out of a new dimension just with our arms going back and forth. I mean, like it's part of it. Totally. So we talk about depression. Mm-hmm. And so moving to anxiety, how does that kind of work in tandem?
Absolutely right. So anxiety, right? And so that's our nervous system kind of gets overactivated at times. So we might feel that like really tense core in our gut getting activated, shortness of breath. That's the physiological side when our autonomic nervous system is really kind of getting activated. And it tends to be paired with the cognitive content of our thoughts are just streaming. It's hard to quiet it. It might be generalized about a lot of different types of topics or very specific, like, for example, a phobia or social anxiety. And then the other side is I do a lot of work with trauma. And I think I actually am going to get into that a little bit with our episodes today of what does it look like when we have maybe developmental traumas, and that can play out over life that looks a little bit like anxiety, but it's different because we're responding in ways where we've learned, hey, this person or the situation isn't safe. And the brain is going through this like protection scanning mode. And these feel very similar, but have different sources. So I could go on more about it, but that's kind of my Cliff Notes version, I suppose.
Let's save it for the podcast.
Okay, deal.
Well, this is the podcast. That was like but super meta, right?
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you for talking about that, because I think we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna see some of those themes throughout. Are we gonna start with you guys want to start with Rugrats or Hey Arnold? What are you feeling?
You know what? So just to let you guys know, we are covering Rugrats season 2, episode 13, A Visit from Lipshitz, and Hey Arnold, season 4, episode 18, Helga on the couch.
Yes, which we've gone back and forth. I'm like, we're watching Helga in the chair, Helga around the sofa,
underneath the couch. No.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
So when Sean and I were texting, we were I was like, hey, what's this episode again? And we just used all these different terms, but it's on the couch.
Prepositions are hard, okay? Like, that's not a preposition?
I mean, it is a preposition, but it's like on the couch. What's hard?
I don't know. Like, I feel like a chair could also be an appropriate title for this episode.
Oh, on the chair. Maybe she's getting a haircut.
A chair cut. Well,
and
fine,
also in like
fine,
old
Ty.
school psychodynamic, like it was a couch typically that individuals were
Right.
lying down on, and so that's also the reference. So it tends to be a couch.
That's called validation.
So I now have to
is what
ask.
we need to do for each other in life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I need some validation. Why are people laying on a couch? Because like when I'm in therapy and I have to take therapy, BetterHelp, if you want to sponsor us, please do. But like I'm just in a regular chair. Like what was the whole idea about laying on a couch?
So again, it's going back to like Freudian old school psychoanalysis. And so the idea is laying creates more access to this like subconscious. You have the therapist in this observer kind of expert role that is observing the individual laying on the couch. And so this is very, very old school, not really done anymore, except for some individuals do engage in kind of that traditional model of psychoanalysis or hypnosis. And so sometimes we do invite a laying position, but it's not necessarily part of the psychoanalytic assessment anymore. But that's why we go back to that old school, like lay on a couch, right?
Okay. That's good to know.
Yep.
That's a really good. I had the same question, so I wasn't really sure what the deal was with that.
Yeah. I mean, that being said, I have a couch and clients probably have laid on it before.
It's an option. It's like it's like giving
It's an
options,
option.
right? Like, do you ever have anyone like hang upside down like a bat?
Haven't had that yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not opposed if they have the skill.
Yeah. Oh, Ty's got an
We
idea.
need to pitch a movie about vampires going to therapy.
How about therapist vampire? Vampirist. No?
Yes, and
you can have
we
the
gotta
part.
show both.
You can
We gotta
have the
show
part.
both. We
if you
can
want
show
it.
the difference between a vampiric therapist versus a normal therapist, human therapist, a live therapist. Therapizing, is that a word?
Yeah.
It's a verb. Yeah. But I also think this would take the meaning of like someone coming to me and saying life sucks to a whole different level.
It would.
I've been alive for 300 years.
And I feel nothing.
Tell me how that feels.
Nothing brings me joy. Oh, depressed vampire. My heart.
Damp pyre. All right, we can do puns all day. We could.
Yes.
We really could make this the Whiskey Punlodian podcast, but Ty is actually hanging upside down. I know you just have to believe me right now. He's hanging upside down, and he has his notes in his hand, and I think he's ready.
Let's do it. Let's do
to dive
Rugrats.
in.
Let's start with Rugrats.
I like that. That's a good idea.
Because here's my goal. I want to show like what I think is a bad example of a child psychologist.
I agree with that, Ty. But I think before we talk about Rugrats, we officially have one sponsor. Let's just cut to that real quick. Hi. Are you looking at getting your podcast sponsored? Do you keep making maybe not so subtle pleas for businesses to come on in and sponsor you? Maybe you've even resorted to making up your own sponsored ads so you feel better about yourself. Don't feel bad. You're just like anyone else who started making a podcast who wasn't already famous or flush with cash. But now there's hope. Why? Because I'm here. Hi, I'm Dr. Lex Sponsorman. I'm a real doctor of liberal arts, and I specialize in getting sponsors for dedicated podcasters like yourself. I believe in you. Do you believe in you? Do you believe that I believe in you? Let's get started on changing your life after one small down payment of 3 NFTs of your choice and a security deposit of, let's say, a reduced price of $5,000. Visit lexsponsorman.net for more. Yum whiskey, yum whiskey, yum whiskey, yum whiskey, yum whiskey, yum whiskey, yum Whiskeylodeon.
Was that a real sponsor?
Ty, as Dumbledore said in Star Trek, Harry, your brain is just a mirage for things that already have not will exist.
And that was in the Lord of the Rings movie, right?
It was in the third Lord of the Rings, the Return to Azkaban Skywalker.
All right, so
I can't.
let's go to the the impressions. So watching this episode, I kind of teetered. Like originally it was like, man, Lipshitz is such a fraud. Like just like a snake's oil salesman. And then like as I watched it, I'm like, maybe he's just a really bad therapist that got really famous. Kind of like someone else we know. Dr. Bill. Oh, what?
Oh God, I think so. Ty just stroked out for just a second, just a little brief stroke out. He's okay. He's gonna get some pizza. He's gonna throw it up. He'll be right back. Yeah. I like your impression. I don't really have anything to add on to it. What I'm more interested in is Leia, your impression of this episode. We're gonna break it down, of course. So, but like just off the cusp, like what did you feel when you saw this?
I felt a lot.
Yeah, good. Do you want to talk about
my
how
feelings?
you felt there?
Probably not. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I struggle with watching therapy and those concepts in many different films, right? Because it's hard to turn off that professional analytic brain sometimes. And my primary concern is really, how is this displayed in a way that could perpetuate ideas that therapy is not effective or stigmatizing, in mental health. And so that continues to just kind of be my concern of a compassionate place of, let's make sure we make therapy portrayed realistically, where we can make this accessible and not kind of demonize it in some way. And so part of me was cringing, right? Because this therapist is like, comes in with this very power kind of complex, very revered. I think, the parents and they have some very standard parent anxiety of, hey, we want to get the expert's opinion because are we doing this the best way? Because every parent wants the best for their kids. But the reality is the kiddos are pretty okay, right? And that they don't start feeling some kind of emotional distress until they get very confused of the role of who this person is who's come into their home and is now disrupting the parental figure patterns that are happening and attachment theory. And I'll get into that in a moment. But that's kind of my overall initial thought about it is, like they're inviting Dr. Lipshitz in from kind of a parent maybe anxiety place and wanting to do the best and consult. And he's coming in with this power and control kind of model. And then his character develops over time, right? But we can talk about that. I'll pause there.
Well, talk about anxiety. Actually, I need to go over a breakdown. We'll bring in the anxiety later. So, first off, again, we've covered the show before, so just very brief. It was created by Arlene Klasky, Gabor Supo, and Paul Germain. This particular episode was directed by Jim Duffy, written by Paul Germain, Arlene Klasky, and and someone else. Music by Mark Watersbaugh. And some fun facts. Turns out Tommy
Chipped a tooth, Ty.
Oh no, what happened?
It's not chipped. Leia saw it. No, I was going to take a drink of your lovely beverage because you always. Sorry, my finger's my tooth right now, and maybe it was audible. Ow!
I heard it, and so I stopped. I was like,
"It's good. This is going to happen. Like, there's going to be a lot of this. We're good. We are good." But it felt.
Your tooth is in one piece.
It's in one piece.
Okay.
In my face.
How much have you had to drink?
Dude, we always have a drink before this episode and then during, and I actually need a refill.
Actually, I chipped my tooth when I was a kid.
What?
And I have a partially fake
Hold
front tooth.
up, Leia. So
what?
Did you
So this is really a
Ty
sensitive
had
topic.
a tooth story. I had a tooth story. I think it's time for your tooth story.
Okay.
Is it? Did you get through the break? I mean, that was good, right? Any other names that we need to give some love to?
We had some fun facts, but let's stop real quick.
I want to hear this.
I need a tooth story.
Don't worry about this. I'm just filling up my drink. Yeah, that's nice and crisp.
Nice sound.
It is
Just
a nice
wanted to
sound.
take a moment to be mindful of that sound.
Yes.
Okay, so let's set the scene. I suppose I was about 8 or so, and I'm, around my neighborhood, enjoying life and riding my bike. And then a kid comes behind me, chasing me with like one of those pull red wagons, right? So clearly I am going faster, but for some reason I freak out, do a sharp turn, topple over on my bike, skin my knees, go home wailing. And after I'm done crying, I realize, hey, my thumb's really sore and I can't really move it very well. So it was a pretty significant sprain, but nothing was broken. And then I realized there is a gap on my tooth, right? Like my tongue is pushing through in a space where it otherwise couldn't. And so that was the part that was broken. I chipped my tooth. That's the moral of the story. Got it fixed a couple years later.
Wait, what was the moral of the story?
Oh, there was no, yeah. That was it was situation, outcome, moral, but there was no buffer. Yeah, the moral of the story is
this happened.
This happened.
And it's gonna happen.
Wait. I have a moral.
Okay.
Don't react quickly and like scan your environment for fear and what's actually threat, because the red wagon was not a threat to me, right? So maybe more mindful. I'm trying to pull this out of my ass right now.
You don't know that.
The red wagon can always be something you're afraid of. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Anything-
Ty,
anything
you're looking
big
at me
and
with some
red.
honest eyes right now. I
Like
feel like
anything
you've had
big and
some
red. Like Clifford the big red dog was nightmare fuel.
True.
They labeled him a kaiju.
A kaiju. What does that even
type
mean?
of-
Like
Breed?
Godzilla. Like King Kong, like monstrous entities. Clifford is a kaiju.
I haven't seen the movie, but the ads kind of look like a honestly a commercial for depression. Like the thing's following you around, and it's a big red dog. Just
I
me?
got it.
I get it.
Yeah,
No, I
black and white and red.
Well, I love that. Right, red tends to be associated with like some type of like threat alert, right? And so, to that being said, could I have suppressed my again nervous system response when I was freaked out and thought to myself, "Oh, I am not in threat." Like our bodies don't respond in that way, right? So, I guess the moral of the story is our nervous systems are a powerful thing. Is that better?
She
No?
brought
Yeah.
that full circle. Yeah, I think
Is that still a moral?
we're gonna assume it is.
Okay, well,
let's
take it.
assume
Okay,
it is.
okay,
It
fine.
felt good. Like
You know-
sometimes verbally, if something feels good, that's all it needs. And then like maybe an hour later, you're like, well, that was actually a fucked up thing to say.
Oh, I don't think this is moral at all. I think I'm still just struggling here. But anyway,
I loved it.
Do you want
I
to talk
loved it.
about that?
Oh shit! Who's in the couch? Who's around the chair couch now?
I should have fully planned for this.
Well, so
Who's getting the therapy if everyone's on the couch?
So speaking of planning for things, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Like I did not plan well for this Rugrats episode, so I am looking forward to hearing kind of how we break this down and kind of get into it. Ty, how does this thing open up?
So it opens up with, this is what was giving me anxiety. This is what I want to talk about.
Tell me about it, baby.
It opens up with what you find out is the inside of a milk bottle. But it comes across as like a dark, depressing scene of like Alien.
I mean, Rugrats is famously known for their macro intros. Have you noticed that? Like throughout time, like
Yeah,
they do
that's
that.
true.
They do that with almost. I don't want to say every, but like it's very macro, and you kind of you do get that. What would you say? Alien vibe? Was that?
Yeah.
What did you think, Leia?
I felt a little like suffocation vibe.
Okay.
Like you're in this tunnel, you see liquid, it's entrapped, and
Just
then the face at the
claustrophobic,
end.
maybe?
Like I felt claustrophobic in a way.
Yeah. I mean, they do it so well. Maybe you don't feel great in the moment, but when you pull back and it's revealed, you're like, oh, okay, wow, nicely done.
It's kind of like when you look at, like, if you get a macro view of the inside of a cheese grater and it looks like a fucking like music video scene.
What? And when I say what, I mean what? I want to see this music video.
So there is a picture of the inside of a cheese grater, and it literally looks like a 90s music video for a heavy metal band. I'll have to send you guys the picture. You know what? Actually, I will post that picture on our socials, and you can make your observations there. But regardless, so we started with the inside of the milk bottle, and you get Dee Dee coming in. She goes, honey, you will not believe who's coming over for dinner. And Stu's like, Sidney Poitier? He goes, no, it's Lipshitz. And I thought it was a funny line, but then I looked it up. And like Sidney Poitier is like, I know it is a really famous actor.
Guess who's coming to dinner?
Yes, 1967, the movie. And like catching that, I was like, man, these writers are on point.
So I think some of the best examples of like children's TV shows or movies also insert comedy that's gonna like resonate with adults, right?
Yeah.
So like there's 0% chance that we would have seen that as a kid, right? Like or
We wouldn't have got that
understood
reference.
that. Yeah. But yeah, I do have a tickle in my throat, guys. I hope that we can make it through this episode together with this tickle.
Who's tickling you?
My throat is internally tickling me.
And I'm going to jump in here because I had the pleasure of listening to your first podcast before I came on today. And I texted Sean saying something along the lines of like, your podcast voice is unbelievably...
Are you sure that's a mocktail?
Sexy. And I was like, hey, friend, right? Totally. But it was just like a very striking podcast voice. And apparently... This is not the first time Sean has received this feedback.
No,
God damn it.
You also haven't listened to the 2 podcasts ago, our second podcast on Let's Get Weird. Yeah, some listeners were saying that. My wife was saying that. Like, there was a lot of feelings. Because I was told, like, look, dude, you can't compete. You need to talk like you normally do. Don't try and talk low like this. Because it can't compete with this sexy man and his beautiful hair and his sculpted face.
I am flattered with all of those words, and I know that there are times in life where, guys, if you meet me, listeners, if you meet me, I'm going to be a disappointment. Just live vicariously through whatever you're hearing here. Don't shake your head. You know it's true.
The lies
I am
you are
just
saying.
The self-deprecation.
The lack of self-worth.
Yeah.
There's some stuff to
Leia
dig
is
up.
sitting here right now breaking down all this. She's taking notes, and she's going to give me those feedbacks later. Yeah.
Just know this man is very, very loved. Both of you are. And he doesn't, Sean in particular, has a hard time taking compliments at times.
Oh.
Love you.
Do I
Yeah.
do you feel the same way?
I do.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're this beautiful soul, and from a non-therapist...
You're not a therapist?
I'm not.
But your shirt is an owl that says whom. I would have...
So that means I'm pretentious, not a therapist.
No.
I mean, aren't they synonymous?
That's a
No,
t-shirt
no.
right there.
Let's just go round robin or round owl. It's a great shirt, though, man.
Thank you. But yeah, you're this lovely person, and it's like you don't see the worth you have. And so when people try to like be like, oh wow, like what you have is valuable, you're like, is it though? Like I feel like I get it on Groupon, and no.
You can find me on Groupon.
And I do think I understand, right? Because we're trying to sometimes maybe balance feeling like humility and go through our own perceptions of self and
Yeah, but humility
deflect.
isn't to think less of yourself, it's to think of yourself less.
Fair.
God damn, Ty.
That was a well said sentence.
That was.
Thank
He
you.
did it concisely too. See, I can't say things concisely. That's why I'm going to talk for the next 30,000 years
But we get to
about
listen to your
this.
beautiful voice.
Keep talking.
Yeah, I like listening. I like listening better. But I appreciate you both. That's very sweet. I appreciate everything you're saying. I do, however, appreciate the whiskey a little bit more. God damn it. Can we talk about this? Leia, I know you're not drinking whiskey, but you are having a mocktail right now. What do you think of what Ty has done in this glass?
So
Ooh, that sounded bad. What do you think about I feel like every episode I'm just like, I don't like that sentence. I don't like it. What do you think about what Ty has concocted liquidly in this glass?
I honestly didn't even think about anything of that
No
sentence.
one did until
he said it.
Oh, but now you're thinking about it, and that's the stuff podcast is made of.
And now I'm responding to that instead of your actual question, which was just flavor in general, right? When you were speaking about spice, and like I was kind of thinking about this wonderful ginger beer having flavors that even complement like a gin, like juniper, bright. Like I love those kinds of flavors put together, and Ty is just a creative flavor genius.
He really is, though. Dude, seriously, like you bring it here. You bring it here.
I'd like to bring it. I mean, flavor's my jam.
Yeah.
Like if it tastes good, I will drink it. Like
And also jam is your flavor.
Yes. So, okay. Listeners, let me tell you something about me. I know we're going on a tangent, but I have to share this.
Ty, it's okay. We are going to go on tangents here.
Flavor is why I don't do shots. Well, one of the reasons I don't do shots. Because one, if it tastes good, I don't want to just shoot it down.
It goes away so fast.
Yeah. Why waste it?
Why?
And if it doesn't taste good, why am I drinking it? So that's the main reason. But there's another underlying issue, and maybe this is something I need to work through. Leia, you can tell me if I need to.
Professionally, unprofessionally. Disclaimer from the beginning.
Yes. There was a moment where I was scarred. I had a friend. It was her birthday. We were just all together. My wife was there too. And my wife and this friend were trying to convince me to have a shot because I was very much I'm not going to do shots. And it was a blowjob shot. And she's like, hey, for my birthday, I want you to take this blowjob shot with me. And if you don't know what it is, it's a shot with like cream in it, and you're not supposed to use your hands.
Why is there cream in a blowjob shot, Ty? Can you explain that?
First off, if you are not old enough to listen to this podcast, you can leave.
Y'all have okay.
Say it,
I have
say
a
it.
story. Okay, so when I was
Good.
I was like, is this appropriate for right now? But I'm just gonna say it. So, so I guess I was about 10 or so with the Monica Lewinsky Clinton scandal.
I don't love this segue, but I love it.
And and they were talking a lot about on the news and like whether or not the blowjob like occurred and what it was. And I asked my mom what a blowjob was, and she tells me, you'll learn in school. Like, and
Did you?
Not from the teachers.
No, I'm pretty sure. So answer yes, and not the way that you are going, but she meant I would learn from peers. Someone would define it. I think she got flabbergasted that I asked her.
Did she know you would learn from your peers?
I honestly don't know to this day. I just mock her for it still. So speaking of blowjobs and how we learned about them, carry forth with your shot story.
All right, so going back to it.
So there's cream. We're coming back to there's cream in this shot.
It's like a whipped cream shot, and you're not supposed to use your hands, so you have to go down on it. And here I am.
Did you just use that? Sorry.
Oh, he 100% did. Yeah, whatever
That
you're
was intentional.
Go down on the shot. Yeah, you're supposed to. That's what the blowjob shot is. You have to act like it's.
So Ty. Paint a picture real quick. So Ty, in his hold on, in his owl shirt that says "whom," he has his hands on his hips right now,
trying to go behind my back,
kind of going behind his back, like wings, right? Yeah, and
because I'm about to enact it, like you're not gonna be able to see it, so I'm gonna have to describe it and then do it for you guys.
Can I narrate as you do it?
Yeah, okay. You know what? Yes.
Okay, so
you're not supposed to use your hands. So while I'm going down on it, Sean, go ahead.
Slowly, Ty goes down towards his notes, which ends up being a shot of blowjob. And he pulls back to reveal that he is going to say...
So this shot glass wasn't your typical shot glass. It was like wide rimmed. So I couldn't get my mouth around it.
I love a good wide rim.
So one, I'm sitting there trying to do this, and there's a family with like two kids at the table right beside me. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I'm sitting there trying to get this. I cut my lip trying to get my mouth around this shot glass.
Wait, was the shot glass damaged that you cut your lip on?
Like it was like that wide.
Okay, so when you say that wide, you're talking like that's a big shot glass. So he's holding a circle up right now. What?
Yeah, I would say that's about 3 inches of a glass. Like diameter.
Okay.
And like I cut my lip and it scarred me. Like I can't do shots because like it's like even when my wife goes down on me, I'm like, whoa, I don't want you to cut your lip. Like it's just it messes with me.
Oh shit.
And now I can talk about trauma.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I think we should talk about trauma. Yeah. Do you think, well, we'll get there. I think Tommy and Chucky in this episode are going to have some trauma as they grow up. Maybe. Even though they're the best characters of this episode. But it does start with this whole macro milk bottle situation. Mm-hmm. And we kind of get through this first scene. And then what happens here?
We find out that Dr. Lipshitz is coming over for dinner.
Yeah, he is.
The doorbell rings. And so Dee Dee is like, oh, that must be him. Opens the door. It's like, oh, Dr. Lipshitz, I'm so happy you're here. And then she sees it's not him. Ah! It's Charles, or we know him as Chaz, Chucky's dad. And she had to apologize because she just screamed at this guy. And she's like, oh, I thought you were a famous psychologist. Like the disappointment in her voice was very apparent. He goes, no, I'm just another bureaucrat, faceless bureaucrat trying to pick up his kid. Like, one, self-worth, he considers himself faceless, but also he's a bureaucrat. What do you think his job was?
I think Chaz might be like some kind of like Jason Bourne, like Bourne Identity. Like, I know.
You think he's a sleeper agent?
Well, he doesn't have the physique of one, but he does have the mystique of one.
And if he is, then he's a spy coming over to spy on Lipshitz because he's a German psychologist who's mind manipulating.
You read my mind.
Or he's observing Stu Pickles, because actually one of the fun facts I didn't get to mention, he and Stu were best friends growing up, like childhood friends, which is why Tommy and Chucky hang out together.
What do you think happened there that made Stu have his little murder dungeon?
I don't know why he has his murder dungeon, but I think Chaz is there because of it.
Oh,
fuck. Like all the stuff that he's built, he's now on the FBI wanted list. He's now going to check, which I think is a lot better than like thinking he was just working for the IRS, which is probably what he actually did, because he's kind of like Howard, where he's not that impressive of a person.
But he's a little more lovable.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Howard looks like a clown. And Leia pointed out something today. Who also looks like a clown?
I don't remember right now.
Dr. Lipshitz.
Oh, yeah. No. As soon as
he walks through the door with his little.
It's the hair.
It's the little cone hair.
It's the bozo hair.
It is.
Are you sure that that's a mocktail?
We've had a lot of tangents today, so it's sometimes hard to track.
Listen, I don't love coffee. I love secondhand coffee. The smells so good. I think Leia might just be getting secondhand drunk right now.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I blame us, Ty. I think we have to blame us.
Going back, Stu then tells Chaz that Lipshitz is coming, and that's when you find out that Chaz is really into Lipshitz too.
Oh, I missed that.
Mm-hmm. There's this idolization of Lipshitz, right? And
there's a reverence.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's really interesting because sometimes I even see that when individuals come to a therapist, they're so wanting help and support. And so they're also asking for kind of quick skills, things to change mood and do this as quickly as possible. And so that's part of the initial work, is slowing things down. It's like, okay, well, I'm still learning about you. We have to do some application, see what works. We do have to go background, do some assessment. There's a lot of richness to the process. And at the end of the day, I'm a human who is drawing from a lot of research. I'm nerdy. I've read a lot, but I need to learn about the human in front of me too. And so the therapeutic relationship is really, really important to feel trust and confidence in each other as well as in the therapist, because otherwise it's just not as effective, right?
Right.
And so, but that reverence piece, I think, interrupts with that genuine trust and therapeutic relationship. And so I was already kind of feeling a little uncomfortable seeing that level of reverence for Lipshitz, because I was like, oh, this is going to make parenting, anything they apply, they're just going to kind of listen to Lipshitz as opposed to really thinking about what their kids need also, right? And so it already felt a little uncomfortable for me, though.
Do you think there is an evangelical nature in a lot of different careers?
Well, I think we oftentimes are looking for an exact response, right? Humans don't really do very well with uncertainty. There's a lot of discomfort in uncertain experiences or knowledge. We want black or white. A lot of individuals even struggle with psychology or sociology or what's deemed as like these kind of traditionally quote unquote soft sciences, because there's so much subjectivity and ambiguity. And so they're really looking for, okay, what's the best way to change, to feel differently, because they're so kind of, in my profession at least, right, stuck in how they're feeling. And of course we want to create movement. But I think the question you spoke to, Sean, is really, we're kind of uncomfortable with uncertainty and
having to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not so sure about that. I'm just not so sure about being unsure about being sure about that.
You've built a tolerance, which I think is also a part of the process. Like the acceptance that uncertainty is part of living and a human experience.
I think you're right. The only thing I have not built a tolerance is with this whiskey. Ty, like, we're doing this so often. What is going to happen to us by the end of this podcast?
Well, we ate, so I think we're off to a good start.
I think we're off to a good start.
And we're not doing a double episode, so I think that is also a saving grace.
Yeah. I mean, we may break this down into 2 parts. I don't know. We'll see what happens in post-production. We don't know. We don't know. So here's what happens. Like, Lipshitz walks on through the door.
Yeah. So Stu, like, Chaz is all excited that Lipshitz is coming, and Lou, the grandpa,
Bless him.
is like, y'all listen to that crackpot. Like amazingly, he has no positive opinion of this guy. And Lipshitz pops up. Who's a crackpot? And that was a terrible accent, Sean. Thank you for not calling me out.
Yeah, I said it. I was the one who said that. It was definitely not Ty the whole time introducing these characters.
But yeah, so you get Lipshitz coming in, and he is such a douche muffin. You know, like literally, he has no respect for these people. He literally is there to eat and leave. He gives.
I mean, after someone calls me a douche muffin, I'm ready to eat. Just me?
Muffins.
Muffins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he gives Dee Dee his purse, and that's when Tommy and Dee Dee are like, "Oh, that mommy has fur on his
Tommy
chin."
and Chucky. Right?
Yeah, Tommy and Chucky.
Yeah.
Like, Chucky's like, "Oh my goodness, that can't be a mommy. It has fur on its chin." And Tommy's like, "Lots of mommies have fur on their chin. There's the lady has fur on her chin at the dry cleaners." Which, Tommy, oh my goodness, dude. Subtlety.
Well, he's one. I don't think he knows how to spell. Subtlety for him is something he drinks before bedtime.
Here's actually a funny thing. Having you here, like, the writers actually, Tommy apparently in the show is a premature baby, which is why the writers write him with an adventurous spirit. Because, like, that fighting spirit.
So I was actually thinking about this also from a developmental level, especially when they start exploring the medical bag, because they jump right into it, and what falls out, right? Some bottles and like diapers.
Some branded diapers and bottles.
Oh, they were so branded.
Right.
Yeah. Product placement.
Yeah. And at that age, so there's all sorts of developmental theories, and oftentimes we're seeing youth and children and infants go through these kinds of conflicts between like wanting more independence, exploring the environment, and then also wanting safety and going back to parents for when things feel uncertain. And so this goes into even old school theory like autonomy and shame. So I want autonomy, sense of independence, exploration and learning. And then maybe that doesn't feel too good, and I'm going back to my primary attachment figure that feels safe and secure. If there's a safe and secure attachment, and I can go depth into that, but I think what you were just speaking to, Ty, right, is kind of talking about developmentally, right? Tommy is very curious and exploring the environment, and that makes a lot of sense to me, considering he's just like ready to be out in the world, and he's in this autonomous place, but also finds a lot of safety and security in the patterns of his family and with his parents, and Lipshitz coming in is interrupting that security.
Right. I think Chucky is getting affected more, but absolutely.
Do you think Chucky gets affected more? I mean, because basically the next scene, Tommy literally drops on Chucky. He's just like, "Hey, man, what if that's your new mommy?" Do you think that is the thing?
Yeah. Chucky is so like filled with anxiety and I would even say depression. And you find out that like his mom, I don't know if she's died at this point, but she dies. Like, you never meet the mom.
We don't know. We don't. Wow. We never. Right, because we never really get like we never get that fact written in stone, but we do have to assume that that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, in the Rugrats movie, like, Chaz gets remarried.
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen that movie in so long. I guess maybe we do get that fact. I don't know.
Yeah. So does Dee Dee kind of like, who fills in? Is there a mother figure role? Did they talk about like Chaz kind of filling both roles? Like I'm curious about that.
Chaz is filling both roles,
yeah.
And I think that's also one of the reasons why they bring Chucky over is to have that more support. But I don't think like Dee Dee or anyone else is filling in that role, which is why they're like, oh, could this be your new mommy?
Yeah, it tracks. So what happens after Tommy kind of drops that bomb on Chucky?
So we're kind of missing a couple things. So before he's like, this could be your mommy, they are actually going to dinner. Like, Lipshitz arrived, they're having their goulash dinner.
Oh, the goulash.
And already Lipshitz is butting in. Like, no one asked him. well, of course, Dee Dee did. But, like, Stu picks up Tommy by his armpits, like any normal person would do, to sit him in his baby seat. And he's like, oh, I shouldn't tell you.
Oh, but what does he tell him anyway?
You shouldn't pick up your kid by the armpit. You should pick him up by their waist. Which is like, there is so much. Like, thinking as a person, babies are so wiggly. And if you pick them up by their waist, you have no, like, center of gravity. You have removed that center of gravity.
It's like a slinky?
Yeah, it's a baby slinky. I was thinking more like a baby seesaw.
Oh, yeah, a little teeter-totter?
Yeah, a little teeter-totter. Yeah. And so finally, you see that, and then Chaz goes to put the bib on Chucky. He's like, oh, like, be careful, because if you put the bib on too tight, you're choking them, you're denying them their emotional freedom. Or if you put them too loose, you're denying them their, like, your sternness of your love, or whatever it was.
All right, Leia, all of this that's coming from Lipshitz, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I think he's just trying to assert, like, this masking of, hey, I really don't know anything. Like, right?
Yeah,
Like, and I think this kind of goes back to maybe the parental anxiety piece, that sometimes parents are in this place of, okay, if anything that what can I do, right? Or things, every little thing means something, and it doesn't have to. The really key piece of secure attachment to a parental figure is being available to the child at any point. So, for example, not all the time, but being available to say, okay, I'm here for a sense of safety. I'm here to feed, to nourish, to play, and to give you independence to explore, like what we were just speaking about, exploration and autonomy. So it's that balance, but it's not any little thing like tying the bib too tight or holding your child by the armpits or waist, but it is a sense of availability. So you will hold your child, you will soothe your child. Like, it goes into a scene in a moment later where Tommy and Chucky get upset and they're crying, and Lipshitz says something along the lines of, let's sit with quiet time, as opposed to the adults would go and comfort, right? Going to comfort actually shows a sense of safety, attunement. And so emotional attunement, saying that we are on the same level with parents and child, actually is a predictor for secure attachment and outcome.
I'm meeting you where you're at.
Exactly, right? And so we used to go into even these old school theory of cry it out and let the kiddo, like, kind of exhaust the cry. But research really doesn't support that, because what happens is the nervous system for the kiddo just gets so intense and then exhausted. And what we really need to have is, I am here and attuned and available for you when you're crying, when you're upset. And I'm going to say, okay, I can step away now, but I'm still over here, right? And I wonder about that for you, Ty. Like, as a parent, does any of this kind of resonate with you?
So I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And
there he is. Here it is.
I agree to be there for your child. But sometimes that baby is being a little shit. And again, disgruntled listener, I love you and I love our child.
He'll see you at 6.
I'll see you at 6. You just had, like, I had to put him in his crib. Like, look, bitch, I will be back. And I had to take a drink or something just to calm down, because this motherfucker, I'm trying to take care of his needs, and he's mad at me because, like, his needs aren't even met when I'm trying to meet them. It's like, I'm getting wound up already.
I know. I like it. It's hot, man. It's good. It's good. Your owl shirt is sweating.
Flexing.
You're attracted to his frustration?
Oh, yeah. You have to be. Oh, I know what happened last episode. There was some bromance going on. It's fine.
We're not going to Sean's dating and attraction history. But, Ty, I want to come back to you.
Please do.
Oh, super burn. I'm going to grab some Neosporin. Spurn? Is that how you pronounce it? It rhymes with burn, right? Neosporin.
This is like when you introduced me as working with teens.
Yeah, it's with teens. Teens burn themselves and then they Neosporin. Yeah.
So as
well,
you
I
were
feel
going
validated.
to say.
So, Ty, I really want to express appreciation for you saying that, right? Like, parents absolutely need a break, and your nervous system, and you're shot, you're frustrated, your patience is also done. You're talking about, like, honestly, sleep and or gosh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Sleep deprivation?
Deprivation.
Yep.
That's the word.
Went through that. Mm-hmm.
Right. And you're talking about the fact that you are so attuning to another person and giving them all their needs, and how are you getting your own needs? And so absolutely parents need a break. And so when I speak about like being attuned to the child, it's about choosing when, right? Like, I think it's about, okay, is my child intensely upset, or is this just kind of a momentary thing? Or, and it's also, I think, about a law of averages. For the most part, how available are you at times when that intensity is saying, yes, I need to be available to my kiddo, or yes, they need to kind of learn their own frustration tolerance, because if you're constantly there, then it's not giving the child an opportunity to self-soothe, or
You're denying them their emotional freedom.
And now I sound like Lipshitz. Right. So I just really wanted to validate, and I love that you brought that up to create the nuance there. Yeah.
Well, so after Lipshitz talks about that, this is one of my favorite parts. Bullseye. Tommy throws some mashed potatoes into Lipschitz's face.
Dude.
And it's glorious. And Lou just...
Lou,
well,
man.
not even like, oh, no, what are you doing? He goes, bullseye.
Bullseye.
He is so proud of his grandson.
So I love Lou. I do.
Oh, no. Don't ruin him for
I'm
us.
sorry. He is... Okay, now granted, Lipshitz...
He needs therapy, too. I understand.
Well, no, Lipshitz
doesn't?
is not a good model for a therapist. However, he is, before even meeting Lipshitz, kind of degrading him and what therapy is in general. And so he kind of feels like this, like, maybe like stigmatized, struggling with how therapy could be helpful, very individualized, like we can work through things on ourselves. And so that was just my reaction to him throughout some of those moments. Granted, it is hilarious when he's like bullseye. And so, yeah.
He's like a net neutral character sometimes,
Net
right?
neutral. Yeah.
And immediately from that, you have the parents take the kids out. The babies are like, hey, why don't you just sit here in your playpen while we eat? And I feel like, to me, that's more like traumatizing than like having your bib too tight.
Oh.
Like for me, you're taking me away from food. You're punishing me by taking away my food because I was expressing my emotional freedom. But that doesn't bother them at all. This is their like, hey, we can now get into the purse unimpeded. And so they, of course, pull that screwdriver, which how are they like keeping this hidden for so long?
It's always hidden.
And they
it's
get
always
out
available.
their pen and they pull the purse down. How
Ty,
do we open it?
Can you describe how they just fucking open this
They
thing?
curb stomp the purse.
They fuck this shit up.
Curb stomp the purse to open it up. They don't even use their fists. They're using their legs. They're kicking it. They're kick.
I thought I saw fists. I don't know. I thought I saw every appendage just going 90 degrees.
Yeah,
at this
they
fucking
were
thing.
beating this shit up.
That was my favorite. Like, we could stop here and say, like, you figure out. You watch the episode, listener. That was the best part of the
That
episode.
was amazing.
That was amazing. Yeah.
And what you find inside are branded, Lipshitz branded diapers and
Very important
milk
that they're
bottles.
branded.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
right.
that's all the affirmation Tommy needs. You'll see he is a mommy. And I love how before it was all like, it's a mommy. But at this scene, he gives it a gender. He genderizes Lipshitz. And it's like, he is a mommy. And that's when Tom was like, what if he's going to be your new mom?
Right. Okay. So, yeah. Now we're back. So, we're back to that bomb drop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Tommy's sitting there all about it. He goes, yeah, this is a mommy. Chucky is not about that shit.
No. Well, Chucky's never about that shit. Like, Leia, like, what kind of personality is Chucky?
Are you speaking? I feel like this might be a leading question, but are you speaking to like
It has to be. Yeah,
like
always,
anxiety?
always.
Like
Yeah.
no, absolutely. And,
Yeah,
and
like-
I could only imagine, right, that like trying to have role identity. Who is my parent? What does it mean to be a mommy? And I think we are currently really having a lot of conversations in family structures and systems of expanding the definition of a mommy or a mother figure or a caregiver.
I mean, by Tommy's definition, he puts on the bib, he cuts the vegetables, he has diapers and bottles in his purse. Like, by that definition, I identify as a mommy.
Yeah. Well, I think you're a great mommy, Ty.
No.
Yeah.
Are you his mommy?
No, but I do have some mommy milkers. I need to lose some weight.
Well, seriously, can you post? We're gonna post a picture of the shirt that he's wearing. It's beautiful.
Whom?
Whom?
But yeah, so I identified a lot more with mothers than I did with other dads. So I was a stay-at-home parent, so I identify with the moms over the dads. And And like you hear these guys like, yeah, I get home from work and they just hit me the baby. I'm like, bitch, you got yelled at because you fucked up. We got yelled at. We don't know why. Take the fucking baby. Like, it's just, like, there's also another thing I don't like. I don't like when people are like, oh, you're such a good dad. Because, like, I don't feel like I'm a good dad. But still, I also recognize that moms do the same thing, if not better. And it's just like, that's expected. But, like, if I do it, oh, you're such a good dad. It's like, no. Like, moms do this all the time. I'm just a little bitch about it.
It is an interesting observation, though, right? Like the things that, and I think it speaks to some of the emotional and cognitive load that mothers tend to endorse, where mothers at times will, do a lot, like those basics, right? Like prepare the snacks and get ready for bedtime. But when dads do it, it's like this exceptional attention, or like that makes you that much better of a dad or parent, or I'm not saying this quite eloquently, but you're kind of speaking to these different standards based on, hey, we're talking about the same actions, but because it's a different gender or different roles that we've seen historically, individuals can have those different reactions. It's an interesting phenomenon.
It's still bullshit.
I mean, I guess we're just finding ourselves in a loop of like antiquated ideas at times, right? Is that
now Sean coming with the concise statement?
I needed one, and I'm going to stop right now. Ty, take it away, baby.
All right, so Dee Dee wants a picture with Lipshitz, so they take a picture. She's talking about coffee and desserts, and Lipshitz is like, ooh, desserts, and that's when like he sees the playpen, and he's all excited, oh, the playpen, and then he sees the pop-up book. And he goes, oh no, these pop-up books foster delusional behavior. We have to take it away. Which, one, the fuck. And two, like, you're going to take away something that's bringing these kids joy. And these kids cry. And he doesn't tell them, hey, no, don't take care of them. We're going to do quiet time. And it's all the kids sit down, or all the parents sit down. And he puts on this music. And everyone closes their eyes. It's like they're trying to meditate. They're trying to meditate the kids to feel better. And I guess in some way they're just trying to create a calming atmosphere and hoping that helps. But they're not touching or engaging with the children.
So was this the same idea of cry it out? I mean, like, or are we talking about two different things? Because I know he said quiet time, and they're still crying, though. Do you want to talk about that, Leia? Like, I don't know if I'm wrong about what I just said, but...
Yeah, I think it depends about the function, and there might be some overlap here, right? Because I had interpreted it as cry it out. It was really more quiet time. And so going back to children and infants tend to respond to reciprocity of tone, porosity of language. And so what I mean by that is if we are yelling as parents, the kiddo might get louder or might even start crying. Like the emotional intensity and volume is going to intensify. If we get quieter, sometimes it will get quieter, but we really actually want to match more so than anything. And so say someone is speaking in a more medium tone, but is slightly elevated in volume. If we match, we tend to actually respond more with reciprocation and understanding of each other. So that theory kind of goes back to, that's why we want to speak to our children or tune to them, or as Ty mentioned, hey, nobody is paying attention to these kiddos as we're trying to do quiet time. So is quiet time a bad thing necessarily? No, not necessarily. However, if your child is feeling intensely activated, is showing crying, then that matching isn't happening.
There's a disconnect.
Right, exactly. And so that cry it out is really just going to, at some point, teach the youth that, okay, well, my parents don't show up when I'm showing intense emotion. And that can be very, as you spoke to earlier, traumatizing and have attachment wounds that become pretty significant later in life.
Well, this doesn't seem to be one of those times because Tommy calms the fuck down and immediately goes for Lipshitz pen. And it's like a beautiful ink pen. But this beautiful ink pen just vomits ink all over Lipshitz.
Which is really satisfying when it happens because you're so annoyed by Lipshitz at this point. Just have to say, continue.
And so, of course, Dee Dee's mortified and is trying to clean him up. And that's when Stu and Lou are oh, this is our chance. We can go to the baseball game. And they convince Lou to go. I was like, but Dr. Lipshitz. And Lou's like, be a man, son. And all the kids go. Or sorry, I see kids. They're adults. All the parents go and leave the babies. And the babies run to the door like, no, don't leave us here with Lipshitz. And it gets so bad that they immediately they hear Lipshitz coming back and they hide. So then Dee Dee comes in. She doesn't see the parents. She doesn't see the kids. And she immediately is like, oh, they went to their game and they took the kids. Like, what the fuck? And then you get Lipshitz. He's like, he treats you like a second-rate citizen. Like, if you want that to stop, you have to stand up for your rights. And she's like, do you really think he doesn't respect me? And he, like, belittles her. He goes, oh, you make me laugh. Like, of course he doesn't respect you. And, like, this was giving me some vibes, man. Like some really bad vibes. And so, of course, Dee Dee's like, all right, I'm going to go do that. Please stay here. We'll get you more desserts. And like, she leaves, and he's like, oh, she fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. And so, like, in my mind, it's like, this guy is
when he says it out loud, too.
Yeah, it's a snake oil salesman. And then, like, other times where I'm like, okay, maybe he's just really bad at psychology or whatever. But you got something to say. Leia,
is it a yes
she
and?
She is filled the spirit.
We doing a yes and moment?
Yes and. Well, Sean had brought up this idea of the term ethical earlier, right? And there's a lot that is happening here that is unethical. And so what does that mean, right? That we have the best interest of humans that we're working with at heart. This is why we have professional boundaries. And Lipshitz hasn't done really any type of assessment of the family. This is not clinical treatment or intervention that's happening. He's just been invited over to the house. He has no true model of the working family system. And also, there are very, very specific circumstances in which we would even provide treatment in a home. And then he goes and does a whole slew of inappropriate things within the home, which we'll get to soon. But it's just so cringeworthy because he hasn't truly done an assessment of the family, and he's making these blanket statements about
only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Which is the most absolute statement a non-Sith could make.
But yeah.
Amazing.
So Edie goes off to get her husband and the kids. And the kids...
Pause. So, like, is she going, like... I know, like, this is the 90s, so she doesn't have the means to just, like, text someone and be like, yo, where the fuck are you? Is she, like... What's happening behind the scenes right now?
Yeah, they have landlines, so they can't text. So she's actually driving to the baseball game.
I know. What do you think? What do you think this like is like a chase scene? Like, what do we think's going on back here, guys?
Yeah, there's probably a chase scene. So they probably park.
I want to see this episode.
I do. This is what I really wanted to watch.
Yeah.
But we go back to Lipshitz, and he's sitting there. He's sitting on the TV. He went and raided the fridge. Like, he is hella taking advantage of this situation.
He takes a bath.
He takes a bath.
But why does he take a bath? What commercial does he see?
He sees a commercial for, like, these, I guess it's either a bubble bath or Epsom salt.
Oh, it's bubble. It's called Chemzyme.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Chemzyme.
And he goes, oh, that's such a good idea.
You want to soak in something called Chemzyme? Be my guest. But do not invite me. Maybe.
I'm also really inspired to take a bubble bath tonight, but that's
treat yourself,
listener.
Right?
Please go take a bubble bath tonight and listen to this. Did I say a bubble bath?
Take a bubble bath.
Go take a bubble bath.
You know
tonight.
what? I haven't listened to a podcast in a bubble bath,
Yeah.
and I think that would be super relaxing.
In honor of your favorite podcast you listen to, which I hope is the one that you're listening to right now, go take a bubble bath. I can't say bubble quick. I can't say it right.
I don't want to be like, take a picture and let us know. But comment. Just be like, hey, I did this. Is it relaxing? Tell us. Yeah. Tell us your experience.
Yeah.
Well, with
and have whiskey
tones.
with the bubble bath. The bubble bath. It's hard to say. It's so hard. So, but Lipshitz does indeed go soak in some Chemzyme, and he takes a bubble bath
in someone else's home. Now, the babies are hiding in there, hiding behind the robe. And so they see him get in the bath, and they're like, we got to sneak out. And they open the door, and it creaks. And then he freaks out. So then they freak out. And immediately he's like, oh, my gosh, how are you still here? And he grabs them. And like, just record speed, he puts on the robe, and he takes them to the bedroom. And he is like, I got to take care of your needs. And they're crying. So he then tries to, he literally makes a goofy face. Doesn't work. So then he runs and grabs bottles. He's like, oh, maybe you need my patented formula. And runs, grits him in a bottle. Doesn't even try and feed him. Just holds it up. Hey, do you want this? No? Runs down, gets diapers. Doesn't check their diapers, see if it needs to be changed. Just freaks out, falls on the ground. Is like, why? And like, on one hand, understand that frustration of I can't figure out what this baby needs. But also, the fuck, he didn't even try. He held it up. Like, if my baby's crying, if I put it in his mouth and he takes a sip and he comes down, cool, he wanted that. If he doesn't, he'll take a sip and be like, that's not what I wanted. Okay, bitch, let me try something else. But like, oh my goodness, this guy apparently knows more about how to be a mom than anyone else, and rookie mistakes all around, man. Rookie mistakes.
And what do the babies do to make all this just wrap up nicely?
So he is now crying. He's now just like throwing a tantrum. He's, I think the term's regressing.
Regressing? Is
Regressing.
that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an old school term for defense mechanism of essentially an adult or an older individual going back into their younger stage of life. And so, for example, an adult that is throwing a tantrum on the floor because that's where that old wound has essentially formed. And that is the defense mechanism of now I'm going to retreat into childhood and hopefully receive the response that I wanted and to receive in childhood.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, your brain just got fucked, right?
Yeah, that was
A little bit.
That was a mindfuckery right there.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like, oh, hey, he's going back to this. It's like, no, they're wanting the response they wish they would have gotten.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, man, that hits hard.
It does.
That hits hard.
It does.
And it hits the kids, too, because the kids are like, oh, he's not a mommy.
He's a baby.
And so they immediately go to play with them. And he goes, oh, is this what you wanted? I'll be a monkey's uncle, which didn't even know. And I feel like we're jumping ahead because I had to share this because I thought it was hilarious. I didn't recognize it at the time, but when he's in the bubble bath, what he's humming is the German national anthem.
Yeah. And Ty was harmonizing along, but Leia, were you singing along with it?
I have a question. Why do we think that he was made a German character? Right? Because his nationality, it wasn't, right? He was German?
Sure.
So
I mean, Lipshitz is a German.
It's
and
the
he's-
nomenclature Lipshitz.
right? And
is
he's
German.
singing the national anthem. And so why do we think they wrote the character that way?
So I think this is a couple things. I think Germans are stereotypically portrayed as stoic and non-emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how he was coming across with this whole thing. It's like, this is how you're supposed to do it. Anything else is going to damage them. So I think they were leaning into a stereotype. But like, I didn't even catch that. Like, I'm sitting there looking up the episode and I was like, hey, here's a little trivia. What he's humming, German national anthem.
Is it possible that, like,
interesting.
as kids, because remember, like, this is a rewatch podcast, so we can break this down as adults, but as kids, when we see this,
No, they would not have noticed.
I wouldn't have known that.
does none, so like that barrier
Even as an
is-
adult, I didn't know that.
Okay.
I looked it up. Like,
Yeah.
It was just something,
Oh.
hey, let me look up this episode, and here's a fun fact.
So you just
Fair.
looked it up and that's how you learned
Yeah.
the tune. Yeah. No,
No,
I
no,
wouldn't
no,
have known
no.
that.
He never looked. Ty. I want to brag on Ty for a minute. Can I do that?
Of course.
Sure.
Ty does a fantastic job at preparing for these episodes. I think he's a great note taker. He gets the ins and outs, the little details that we miss. Basically the opposite of me.
I wouldn't even say the opposite. Stop shitting on yourself.
No.
You
Hold
knew
on.
the
I was going to get
name
to a
of
point.
the bubble bath.
Well, it's Chemzyme. I have it in my bubble bath, so I know the brand Ty. But he did not have to look up the German national anthem. I saw him singing every national anthem in his car when he pulled up today, and it was beautiful, and it was glorious.
I want to hear a mashup
like-
of this like right now.
Yeah, we're gonna work on a
actually.
mashup for you guys where Ty sings. Do y'all want to hear that? A little every national anthem possible mashup done by Ty? Let us know in the comments below, whatever social media platform you're on. Also, Ty does our social media because I don't know how to talk about it. MySpace. What up? So after he's done soaking him Chemzyme, he plays with the babies, and they're all like, "Hey, he's a baby.
Yeah,
This was all we wanted. Like, they're happy."
Yeah, they
And
climb
then-
on his back. They're playing, and he's like, "Is this what you wanted?
Yeah.
We can play." And they play.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Dee Dee bringing the guys home.
I guess she finds them.
Yeah,
Wow.
It was a really intense game of Marco Polo.
It had to be.
it had to have been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so they get in, and turns out Lipshitz is still wearing Stu's robe, which he's like, "Hey, that's my robe."
Buster.
And he's like, "It was a long story." Like, doesn't mean like make it a big deal. He's like, "That's a long story." But the kids are asleep. And I'm like, oh my goodness, yes, let the kids sleep. But no, they wake the babies up to take a picture. I'm like, motherfuckers, you just got the baby to sleep. Like this.
Well, and it's not a commentary on the future, but it is, because it's nowadays we are so focused on these phones and like, oh, I can't just enjoy this moment. I need to capture it so I can show somebody else that I enjoyed this moment.
That you didn't actually enjoy.
I mean, that's debatable, but like they could have just kind of ruminated in this moment and said like, wow, like this is beautiful. They did it in that we talked about Tommy's first birthday. And that, I thought that photo was appropriate. They take a picture of like, look at the kids, they're having fun. But when you interrupt something, and this is just a fucking rant I'm going to go on. If you can just have a good time with what you're doing, you do not have to bring your phone into the equation.
He's sweating. It's sexy.
Yeah, my sweat is just going through my owl shirt that I'm not wearing. Figure that shit out.
Passion sweat.
I just want
those
us
pecs
to
are just bouncing.
be
Boom, boom,
present.
boom, boom.
I just want to be present, guys. Can we do it? Can we do it? And I have problems too. Like I am one to take out my phone and take a picture of Ziggy all the time. But you know, when you're going to interrupt something, this felt like an ending that
don't
was
wake up the kids.
It was as frustrating as the episode in entirety
and
was.
It ends with him like they're like, say cheese, and he goes, cheese where? And turns around and they get the picture of the back of his head.
He almost redeemed himself. Maybe not. Leia, you're like, what is your takeaway from all of this?
Honestly, I was kind of frustrated by this episode, in case that wasn't evident. I loved the scene, though, I will say, when they say, oh, he's a baby, and then they come and they play with him and nurture him. And I think it kind of speaks to, we all need some interplay and nurturance in some way. This once revered character was also kind of more humanized. And I think generally speaking, right, it just goes back to your family system. We all have kinks. And that's one way to say it, right? We all have uncertainty. We are doing the best we can. And then when we actually attune and connect, be in the moment, those are the types of times when we can feel most fulfilled and also validate ourselves when it's hard, when we're not sure, and also moving into times when we can really embrace that family system. And so that's, I think, kind of high level what I'm trying to take away from it, aside from the frustration of the very poorly enforced psychological constructs that I was seeing.
Well said. Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that because, again, I am not the father. I am not the psychologist. That feels like a shirt. Like I am the father, the psychologist, the Holy Spirit of whiskey.
It's going there.
Thank you for being here on Whiskeylodeon.
Leia, oh my goodness. First off, we have another episode we got to cover, but we're going to have to split this episode into 2 parts. So let's go ahead and come to a close. Dr. Leia, thank you so much for joining us. You have been an absolute delight. Is there anything you would like to say before we wrap this up?
Well, thank you for the journey, gentlemen, and taking me back to my childhood a bit too, right? Because I am also an 80s baby and grew up watching Nickelodeon and just loved it. But I think, generally speaking, it's been a joy, and sitting here and talking about constructs of connection, of mindfulness, of what it means to feel frustration and be emotionally connected when we can and take a step back. And it's just a lot of constructs that I think are really important to honoring where we are in ourselves and relationally, and conversation that could go on for days. But just thank you for bringing that into your podcast today, y'all.
Absolutely. Thank you. And again, if you want to follow her, you can find her on Instagram at warmly Dr. Leia.
And also, I too am starting a podcast with a good psychiatrist friend, Dr. Rodney Villanueva. And we're just talking nerdy stuff, honestly, talking about research, various questions like...
You want to drop the name of that podcast?
So our podcast is called Two Shrinks and a Drink. We get into some really nerdy theory. We have mocktail recipes and really get more in depth about different constructs related to psychology. So please feel free to join us and listen if you're interested.
All right. Yeah. So there's nothing else to do but to bottoms up
Which on the bottoms of these drinks are some blueberries. If you're following along at home, you know what to do. Cheers. Friends.
Cheers.
Go ahead and clink. There we go. We can end on that.
Oh, I'm totally going to cut that.
Well, I don't cut in between. Okay, so
We don't need to clink.
fine.
Oh, I can fix it in post.
Okay, fair
Yeah, that's a post fix. But it's
Okay.
good to cheers in real life.
Satisfying.
I thought you meant like in real life, like let's clink. I was like, oh yeah, of course.